Hello and welcome to the Crafty Pint Podcast. I'm Will.
I'm James, joining you here from sunny and getting quite steamy Mataranka.
Where's that, James? I feel like the Australian beer drinkers and beer industry are traveling along with you. So tell us a little bit more about where it is.
Yeah, well, Mataranka's more than 1,000 k's north of the last brewery I went to, which was in Alice Springs a few days ago. I had an overnighter there, called in to see Kyle, and met his new head brewer, which is Dave Henderson, one of the founders of the Western Ridge Brewing Collective. Moved up there just over a week ago to join the team. And funnily enough, Jim Ryan, who was the head brewer there, we did a feature on a couple of years ago. Turns out he's back in town playing the odd gig in the beer garden there, doing a few Rockstar brewer shifts, becoming their FIFO brewer for the recently rebranded Port Lincoln Brewing. But yeah, we just did two hard days of driving, stayed in some fascinating places. You'd have loved our last stop before we got to Mataranka, which is sort of Northern Territory. We drove about 2 or 3 k's down a dirt track off the side of the Stuart Highway onto a World War II airstrip. Which was really quite fantastic. You could imagine like a aircon. What was the Nick Cage movie in the 80s? That sort of aircon, or some sort of Vietnamese war reenaction movie taking place and seeing some sort of play, or even Paulo Escobar planes coming in and bringing tons of cocaine down this sort of slightly hidden airstrips. That was pretty cool.
While you were there, or this is more historic we're talking about?
This was in my mind. I was envisaging it. It's just this amazing, long, open, like really red sort of gravel tarmac that obviously was so well laid back in the 30s or 40s that there's not a single blade of grass or weed coming through it. And so just now it's just you get a number of sort of camper vans and caravans stop alongside it every night, have a fire, move on, which is pretty cool. And now I'm at the Little Roper Stock Camp. Any families listening, this is the best place to stop in Mataranka. I've hidden right down the end though, because there's kids running around with snakes and lizards and sheep and whatever is going on over there. So I'm keeping well away from them while we get this recorded.
Fantastic, thank you. And while you were hitting up those Ks, there was quite a bit of news in the second half of last week. So 2 Sydney brewery venues are to shut, although there's still a future of them. So White Bay will close the production brewery and its tap room, although the team at the Social Drinks Group say they're looking for a new location for it, smaller by the sounds of things, potentially without any brewing, with all of the brewing heading to Hawkers, which has been part of their group since the start of this year.
Yeah. I have to say I've been thankful for the long drives and Starlink, being able to keep on top of all this stuff with you over the last week or so since since we left Melbourne. But it's interesting. I know when we spoke to the team when the Social Drinks Group was formed last year, they felt there was great synergies between the brands and also the production breweries, and that potentially Hawkers would be used for the bigger production runs, and then White Bay would be great for smaller batches, limited releases and what have you. I guess over time they've probably looked at the figures and looked at the setup and just gone, you know what. Especially, I think it's a very high rent for White Bay, which will, which is another issue with Wayward we'll talk about in a minute or two. And I think they've looked at it and gone, it actually makes very little sense, in the current environment to keep these 2 spaces going. Hopefully White Bay do find a new home. It was a pretty unique space out there on the Balmain Peninsula, one of the few places where you could get that sort of offering. We did a past industry drink shout there. It'd be interesting to see how that pans out. And clearly it hasn't gone quite as they were thinking when they formed the merger last year. But presumably, they think this is the best way of keeping both brands sort of viable and strong into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I remain a bit of a skeptic of how you negotiate multiple brands under one banner. I think it's hard work, and I'd love to see people who crack it. And I think a different approach that's been taken, obviously, is with Powder Monkey Group. They've sort of formalized their purchase of Akasha and Wayward, and in that news is also the fact that the Wayward tap room actually won't be continuing.
Yeah. Well, I think that was sort of we broke the news about the Powder Monkey acquiring Akasha, and Wayward, which I guess had merged or sort of folded into Akasha a while ago, and at the time there was they confirmed this was going to happen. We were just waiting for this, I guess, the signing, dotting of I's and crossing of T's. And then when we got the media release, you were like, oh, There's no mention of Wayward in here, and took a little bit of pushing, I think, to get that confirmed. But yeah, it's really sad. I mean, that Wayward tap room was a really unique space, very beautiful space. Again, I'd imagine it probably comes down to looking at what they've got and looking on paper, going, the rent there is ridiculous, or it's so high, just down to the the unique nature of the space and where it is. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people sad to see it go. It was generally a very well visited and very popular tap room. And I'm sure Pete Phillip, founder of Wayward, will be a sad day for him mid-August when they have their closing weekend, which I believe they're planning to make a massive one on August 16th, 17th. If any Wayward fans out there would like to get down and help send them off in style.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously with Powder Monkey, they've got, I guess, the spiritual home of that brand coming in Camden in
Yeah.
Sydney's outer southwest. So they'll have that. Willie the Boatman, Akasha's main production site, which is kind of the main production site of Powder Monkey, and then the Barrel Room by Akasha as well. So they're the venue. So you are looking at a kind of multi-venue tap room hospitality brewing group with all these different outposts in Sydney.
Yeah, and it seems to be a similar approach to the setup that Powder Monkey are taking in the UK, which is where they're based. That was the other thing I guess you picked up on with the article, because it's now a UK owned business, majority UK owned business. The brewery is no longer part of the IBA, but they have said they'll continue operating, in a manner of independence, which I guess is a nice sort of segue into a story that we picked up on last week, thanks to a bit of a tip off from a reader. Who pointed us in the direction of a report the federal government had, or an MP carried out with Wine Australia.
Yeah, so Craig Emerson, since late last year, has been reviewing the wine industry, looking at market failure primarily. There's a lot of stuff in there about grape growers rather than winemakers, and the relationships between that agriculture and people who make wine. And obviously, there's a lot of integration there because a lot of winemakers grow their own grapes. But then also the dominance of the oligopoly of the retail situation, where you're talking about Coles and Endeavour controlling about 60% of the wine retail market, and then you add in Metcash, which is your sort of IGA, and you add in Aldi, and you're getting upwards more like 80%.
Cool. So, what have the report said, and what does it mean for the beer industry then?
Well, the big thing in that is through doing the report, Emerson got the major retailers, Endeavour, who owns Dan and BWS, and Coles, to agree to put their own name on wine that they sell. Obviously, there was this big Four Corners investigation last year at the time when people were really pretty upset with supermarkets, and they also took a look at the sort of control of suppliers and issues around suppliers with the big retailers. And one of the big concerns is, as we know in the beer industry, is that these companies do have quite a few of their own brand products that aren't very easy to tell that they own them. So Coles, obviously, in beer, the big ones, Tinnies. Mm-hmm. Endeavour sort of maybe immediately post-COVID or during COVID did a whole lot of them. Suddenly there was a lot of their own brands, and this includes, Colossal Brewing is probably their most, I would say, maybe craft looking with the stylization of it. And they've got the Golden Pipes, and they work with, so there's a lot of them that they have seemed to have shrunk the number that they're doing at the moment, but they're still on the shelves and that kind of thing, and they've also said that they will do that for beer, which I guess was my line of inquiry. It's like, well, if you're doing this for wine, what does that mean for the beer industry? Because it has been something the beer industry has called for quite a long time. A lot of brewers have been, I think, pretty keen to see it change. So they argue that consumers who might want to know can understand where the beer comes from. Of course, the problem is, does the average person working into Dan's know what Endeavour Drinks Group is, or the Endeavour Group? But maybe some people who do care will be easier to see. And I think transparency is important. And the other thing that sort of appeared for me was when I was sort of thinking about it and asking questions, their websites have far less information on them than the cans do. So it's the Endeavour cans have long said Pinnacle. They'll now say Pinnacle and Endeavour, but you go and you buy that same beer from the Dan Murphy's website and it just says Colossal Brewing. So I also wanted to get confirmation that would happen too, which Endeavour said is happening. Coles, I asked them the same question in several different ways over several different days, and they couldn't quite seem to answer that one, but which is unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I guess be a case of wait and see what happens and when it happens. And I guess that issue of who cares and how much is almost the eternal question around that people like the Independent Brewers Association are always dealing with as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, all this comes in a backdrop of we have heard a lot, from a lot of people that there's a fair bit of deranging going on at the moment. Coles Liquor is in the process of really rationalizing its own business, where it's getting rid of vintage cellars and first choice and focusing on Liquorland. So that's definitely caught a lot of breweries out. And then just in general, while there might be local ranging, the sort of local ranging is smaller than it has been at certain stores, or it's much harder to get Victorian base sales and all these kind of things. It's an area we're looking into at the moment. So if it's an experience you've had and you wanted to talk about it, please just shoot me an email at will@craftypint.com, and I'd love to chat.
Yeah, good stuff. And in terms of other news, I guess rather sort of less curly, we published the second part of Benny's beer travel guide to Tasmania, which this time covered sort of the northeast and the east coast, which has made me, even though I'm up here enjoying the walk, go I should get back to Tassie at some point and get back on the road down that way. So that was a lot of fun. And one last week. I guess Feral is another business that's been through much change since 2017 when one of the original founders, Brendan Varros, sold it to Coke. That was then acquired by Beer Farm and Nail last year. They've also been going through a lot of work. There's a new rebrand about to be unveiled. They wouldn't give us any more than a teaser on that front, but they did put Guy in touch with Charlotte Freeston, the new British head brewer who'd been at Beer Farm beforehand. And I have to say, if only every person we interviewed spoke like Charlotte, we'd probably be up for some sort of Pulitzer Prize for literary, because pretty much every word that sort of fell from her lips to Guy was just like worthy of using as a pull quote for the article. Talking about how she's her background in art, but how she's now just looking to, I guess, recapture what the essence of Feral was about and take it in a new direction, and talking about outsiders and inside, just a really beautiful, really deeply thought about chat about what branding can mean and what they're going to do with the business.
Yeah, it was really good to read. I knew this story was coming, but I didn't actually know that Charlotte, who I've met a few times, was the new head brewer. So I was stoked when all of a sudden I saw the pictures of her and her quotes, and I was like, oh wow, this is a lovely read, and it's great to see her go from strength to strength in the beer industry too.
Yeah, 100%. And talking to people who give great copy, and when we were about to start recording this intro, I had a missed call from Stu Whitecross at Voyager, and while I was off applying some sunscreen, you took the call from him. So he had a bit of an update on Grainstock, the festival and conference that we're partnering with them on later in the year.
Yeah, definitely. So they, by the time you hear this, they will have released tickets to Grainstock. You can get them at grainstock.com.au. They're available now. There's the option to obviously just buy tickets, but brewers who want to come along, there's a sort of means to donate some beer for the consumer facing beer festival, and get yourself a free ride on a bus from one of the major cities to get, which would be a great time. I think we probably have to go up too early, so I won't be able to be on one of these buses, but maybe I'll see if I can catch one home.
Grainstock, have beer, will travel. We'll update our event listing on the website as well, and we'll also, obviously, I think we mentioned before, we sat down with Stu and Brad, the two fans of Voyager, at the Whittam Malt House a few weeks ago. So we'll run that podcast chat with them, which has a lot more about information on the background to Grainstock and what their hopes are for it. So we'll run that in the next couple of weeks as well.
Which brings us to this week's guest, and this was very nearly a lost episode. It would have been our first lost podcast recording. There was a couple of issues when you sat down with the team at One Drop early in the year, James.
Yes. You admittedly, I have to hold my hands up. You said it several weeks ago. You were like, I think we just have to run this as audio only.
I think I said it the week of. I tend to give up pretty easily though.
Yeah, no, I sat down with them in the upstairs in the gin bar at their brewery in Botany. It was one of the most lovely backdrops I've had for any video we shot. But it was the first time we'd use a new setup of the two new cameras, two mics. I didn't have the producer there. All seemed to go lovely, apart from the fact one of the settings was on some crazy settings. So I was recording in such high definition that the chat actually filled my entire laptop's hard drive, and we didn't realize, but we actually lost the last, I think, 3 minutes of video, which meant I had a corrupted file. I tried to find ways of recovering it. I did actually recover it at one stage, but instead of paying the $140 to get it, then we thought we'd bring it back to Melbourne and do it through our podcast producers subscription. And then we've never got it to work since. We've taken the file into a studio, a podcast studio, run it for 15 hours through a program to try and fix it, and eventually decided, it's just not going to happen. However, we still had the full audio from it. There was a little bit of work to be done to sort of tidy up the last couple of minutes of audio because of what it had done to my laptop. And yeah, so you had to sort of mentally put yourself back into sort of, I guess, February, March time when we did the interview, because the reason we wanted to chat to them, I was in Sydney, but also it was on the back of the Gabs Hottest 100. They just landed We Jammin' in the top 10, which is a pretty amazing result. So there's a lot of chat about that beer, their approach to brewing, their shock when one of the various beaches they were on, they heard they'd broken the top 10. But again, they're the people they just talk so well. They talk about contained chaos. They talk about being collectively creative. Like even the way the three of them came together, which I won't reveal now, is so serendipitous. Like, it's such a beautiful story, and I think it just really feels like that these three people were meant to work together. And they just you can look at what they do in terms of the beers they put out there, the frequency of beers, the type of beers, and go, it's crazy, and how do you do it? But once you actually hear them talk through it, it's like, oh, well, that's kind of all they could ever do. That's what they have to do. And I guess that's why it works so well for them, because it is actually a genuine representation of who they are as people and as a collective.
Yeah, definitely. I only got to actually listen to it this week, and it was fascinating to hear those aspects of the story, and tip as well the way they come together to make beers. You never know how these things work from the outside, so it's really interesting to hear them go through it. And so I think it starts with you talking to them in Nick's old apartment, which he also lived above the brewery, which is very unsurprising given he lived in the UK for a long time.
Yeah, no, they've made it into this lovely looking gin bar. And I think it looks so lovely. That's why I was holding on, going, I will recover this video somehow. But yeah, he lived up there for a period of time. And once they started the brewery, like, Clay and Meg had sold their house to fund the business. Like, it's it's pretty amazing tale. And our producer's done a pretty good job of tidying up audio as well. There was a few coughs along the way. Clay was actually really, really sick at the time and didn't really want to come in to do it, but thankfully did, because I think having that three-way sort of synergy between them was fantastic. So no video this time around, but it's a really great chat. And I think for anyone who wants any idea how they do what they do, it becomes very, very apparent, through the chat, and also, and how they feel that what they do and what other people are doing was kind of needed to sort of change up the way that craft beer had been going, and how it had been sort of pigeonholed as there's pale, male and stale, and how they're very much not that. So yeah, it's a really great chat, I think. Just a shame it's taken such a long time to get it to people, but hopefully these things are timeless in a way.
Yes, definitely. They're a great brewery, and if you'd like to shout out a great brewery, then why don't you let us know via Bluestone Yeast's Brewery of the Month? If there's a brewery you love for any reason, whether it's the beers, the gin bar, the location, or anything like that, or just the people behind us, then you can let us know at craftybint.com/bluestone.
Yeah, and I've updated that page in the last few days as well. So now you can see we've got a Hall of Fame on there of all the previous winners. So if you want some inspiration to see what past winners have been nominated for, you can jump on there to get a few ideas.
Yes, and if you'd like to shout out some good beer citizens, then do so too through our Have You Done a Rowlings campaign, which you'll hear one of during the middle of this podcast.
Sounds good. Excellent. Well, before we go to the break and then come back with Nick and Clay and Meg, Will?
Yes, well, you might have a favorite brewery and a favorite beer person. And if you have a favorite beer podcast, make sure you leave us a review, a comment, or like and subscribe. Cheers.
Cheers.
Placket is Australia's go-to for street-level poster campaigns that cut through the noise. From local brews to global brands, Placket gets your message seen, loud, proud, and right where it matters. Every day, Placket reaches thousands of people through their expansive Australia-wide network. Whether it's street posters, mega sites, indoor cafe posters, or guerrilla activations, they've got you covered. Want to make an impact on the streets? Make Placket part of your next campaign and get in touch today. Phone 03 9354 6611 or visit placket.com. That's PLAKKIT.com.
Vic, Meg, Clay, thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me here at One Drop. Not in the brewery. Where are we at this moment in time?
We're upstairs in the gin bar,
Yeah.
Formerly my house.
Formerly your house, yeah. Pretty fancy.
Yeah. Didn't look like this back in the day.
No. So this wasn't all your sort of home decor. No.
Oh, not in the aircon, no.
No, but maybe the dartboard.
Yeah, maybe the dartboard. Yeah, true.
Yeah, nice. I figured we, even though I want us to go into your backstory at some point, maybe start with the present. So just a few weeks ago, you guys landed in the top 10 in the Gabs Hottest 100 with a beer that doesn't normally sort of appear that high up in the countdown. So how was that? I'm assuming maybe given up on the beer actually appearing in the top 100 by the time you got to the top 20 or the top 10.
Pretty much.
No, I was kind of confused because I thought, well, how could it slip so hard from last year's 40? So I was a bit confused, still hopeful. But then, started to think, no, top 10, no way.
No, I'd given up hope after 20, I think.
Yeah.
Me too.
I was just like, no.
I had just this little kind of confused feeling from the teens where it's like, where are we, Because we put out a campaign, a couple of posts.
Yeah.
And we asked.
Bad video.
Yeah. And we're just asking people, in general, if you like what we do. It's so hard to put every SKU up for the whole year because it would
can please vote for these 140 beers.
140. So we thought, you know what, if you just like what we do in general, we Jammin's it. You know, if you want to vote for us, just vote for We Jammin'. It's a smoothie sour. We do those. If you like any of them this year and you want to vote for one, just, apply.
I mean, myself and Meg were sitting at the beach having a swim, listening to the live broadcast. And
it was our wedding anniversary.
No, we could hear the shock in your voice when it came up. So,
well, we were sort of we're not given full insight. But I given the 100, but not in any order, so we didn't know when stuff's coming in. And I was like, they can't have given us the right list because your beer hadn't appeared. I was like, there's no way double fruited smoothie sour is coming in the top 10. I was like, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to scramble here. And then when it came in, it was like, whoa. Okay.
When you texted me, so I was at the beach too, and I was like, all right, whatever, top 20, whatever, let's go back to the brewery and grab pizza. And then I was waiting in line, and then one of the girls behind the bar came over and she goes, Nick, did you see? And I was like, no, we didn't get in it. She's like, no, we got in. I turn around, because we were playing it on the TV. It was 10, we're jamming. I was like, holy fuck. And then you text me straight. I was like, is there anything you'd like to say? And
it was it's just a list of expletives, basically.
I just cut it in now, edit it in, but pretty much holy fuck.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was and Seeker getting in at 19 or whatever. It was a really... It was nice for us the first time we did the countdown to have so many smaller breweries and cool beers get in there. It felt the last few years it had been kind of the same things just shuffling around a little bit. So it's pretty cool. I mean, in terms of pushing that, one thing I was just thinking about is that a lot of the breweries tend to tell people to vote for their biggest seller or their flagship beer. But you obviously decided down a different route. What was the thinking behind that? Is that because
we don't really do volume in the sense of a biggest seller. I think we all agreed that We Jammin' was just the one that we'd had. It was our first smoothie sour.
It's the OG smoothie sour.
Yeah, it was the first smoothie sour that we had done when it was just the weirdest thing to do.
Yeah.
And we liked it, and we just kept bringing it back, and I had the most demand just to bring back rather than a volume pull.
It's definitely picked up a bit of a following over the last couple of years.
And how often do you brew it? Is it pretty much year round or just
whenever we can
I mean, how many times last year? It was 2 or 3 times last year.
3 times last year.
Okay.
Yeah, we dropped it down to 375 as well last year.
Yeah.
We redesigned it.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Sharp as. So.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that was the first of your fruited crazy smoothie sours kind of thing. Do you have any idea how many of beers of that ilk you've made since?
Hundreds.
Yeah,
It's
got to be.
It's got to be.
Yeah, that style, so lactose and fruit, however you want to put a label on the front of what it is, at least 50% of the beers.
Right?
Because how many?
So-
What's your average output like limited releases a week? Is it 2, 3, 4,
4,
5?
5, 6 a fortnight.
Okay. Yeah.
Minimum 4, and then up to 8. Even in December last year, we put out 8 in a fortnight
Yeah.
for December.
And how does that go? Because like the team obviously isn't huge. Like you're still a pretty small brewery.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
Well,
And then most people, out there have been doing less limited releases because of the way the market's going, and there's a few, still put a lot out. But you must do at least up there with Rocky Ridge or whatever, like in terms of the most. And there must be a huge workload involved in designing each recipe, coming up with a name, label design, packaging. Like, can you give us some sort of insight into how much does go into maintaining that? Because it sounds pretty exhausting from the outside.
Very early on, I think we all agreed that we would play to our strengths. And where you saw a lot of breweries who started around the same time as us, who were doing limited releases, started to like really push a core and committed to that volume kind of game. We were just like, we wouldn't even know where to. Like, that's not our strength.
Yeah.
So
Well, the core beers are good though.
I think
Yeah,
they're
great.
great, but at that time,
Yeah.
that just wasn't what we felt excited by.
we had no history in sales. We don't know how to talk to them. We didn't know like that. None of our strengths is that sales side.
Yeah.
And we had a lot
So-
of fun with coming up with these new beers and creating really great experiences for each different one. From the copy on the back, like we really had a good time
Yeah, it
doing
was
it.
fun.
So if you just take like one new beer or one like series of new beers, how does the process work then? Is it a case of you going, I want to do this? I mean, like, it's interesting that today you've got a cashew fruit sour going on downstairs,
Yeah, a lot of the ideas of like, I think playing on that last question too, like we're very creative people.
Yeah.
So like, yes, it's high workload, but it's also like something we love doing too. Like the creative aspect is something that's obviously a strength of ours, and that's now part of what we do.
Yeah.
So new beers, like we have a general idea of what we're making over the year, but what we're actually, so it's like, oh, we're going to make a sour this day, but the three of us decide what goes in it. And, the cashew fruit one we're doing today was, Meg lived in Brazil for a while, right?
Yeah, I was there for
And you're
about
like-
6 months when I was 20
Yeah.
years old, and I was just shocked that every cashew nut had a whole fruit attached to it.
Yeah, and
And
it's one nut per fruit, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's
and-
any wonder they're so expensive compared to salted peanuts.
and at that time, the juice was going around. It was a really common breakfast juice.
Also, it is used regularly because you never see cashew fruit stuff over here.
Exactly.
No,
So
yeah.
I got a little bit obsessed with it because it was something that I just never seen before.
Yeah.
I went to the largest cashew tree, all of that. So it was just this
lot of
juice
fruit.
that I remembered when we were talking about it, because it has quite a high acidity naturally. So we talked about it and we thought, you know what, let's experiment with it. We've experimented with so many crazy fruits. So that was just one that we thought, let's try it.
Yeah.
So this specific one is a mixture of this fruit that I never heard of. And Meg was like, you got to fucking try it. And we got a sample from our fruit dealer, and it was like, oh, that's pretty yum. But the second half of the fun there is like asking our fruit guy to go and find this really obscure fruit, which we've done multiple times. And he's like, all right. And you don't hear from him for like 2 months about it. And he's like, I've got a pallet ready. And I was like,
And is he bringing in the fruits or it's juiced, or were you having to juice it yourselves?
So how our fruit guy works is he'll either source the processed fruit already, or he'll source the base fruit and a local processor nearby, and then he does the logistics of those three things. So gets the fruit to the processor, gets it processed, juice, concentrate, puree, usually a puree, and then ships it here because he's shipping from around the world, he just chuck it in there. And so we've done stuff out of Brazil and out of Thailand and New
So
Zealand.
it's not even just like the recipes and the name of the beer and whatever. It's like there's all this other shit going on in the background, to make it all happen as well.
Yeah.
Everyone, including like all the suppliers, work pretty hard in terms of putting that final product together. So
For sure, like with the hops we go on source, or even the guys we get our malt off in New Zealand, like we're not just buying from a storefront. Like we know our suppliers pretty intimately now, because we're very picky.
And let's say once you've got the stuff here and the beer's made, like where's the naming coming from? Who's doing the graphic design? Like who's doing the copy and everything? So
We've got in the beginning, it was all quite frantic because we'll just, creativity can be really messy.
Yeah.
But we've found a really good kind of vibe. So each of us is in charge of certain things, and then we all contribute together. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't know what to do for this can, and then I'll get some ideas from the guys, or like what fruits, and then
Mhm.
like it's a tidy process, but we're all kind of in and out of each other's realm, sort of, so to speak.
which is great because it's like you're collectively creative, which
Yeah.
is part of the core of what we do.
Yeah.
And do you have like a design that's just, I was going to ask about what your favourite beer is, but in terms of a favourite design over the years or a favourite name for a beer that really sort of stands out from the 5,000 you've put out in 6 years?
I can't think of anything now.
I mean, I like the. Yeah, I don't know. What? Clay's got one.
What was the beer we named that IPA? We didn't
Oh no,
can it.
it's just still going on about it.
It was like the first IPA we put on tap. Didn't can it. It was on the bar.
It was on the bar.
Nick was on holiday and Clay named the beer.
Alpha Kinney one.
It's like
There you go.
Alpha Kenny one, and everyone was like,
So people coming up to the bar saying, "I'll get an Alpha Kinney one, please."
Yeah,
And if you say that real fast,
Yeah,
it sounds a bit.
Didn't make it onto a
No.
can though.
No.
Boys will be
Great
boys.
IPA though.
Yeah. And I was one of the questions I'd said over was like, did you feel you made a rod for your own back with this limited release schedule? But it sounds like you do actually thrive on it. Like, this is like who you are, kind of
oh
thing.
yeah, we've pushed it 6 months out now,
Yeah.
so it's not
Yeah,
as
it's a
messy.
lot easier working now.
Yeah.
We're working month to month at one point.
Yeah.
Week to week.
Week to
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And now we've found a decent groove, so it comes pretty natural, I think, for
It's like
the three of us. It's
Contained
Chaos.
Yeah.
Contained mayhem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way that most people seem to operate in this industry. I'm definitely, I don't know if I'm contained though. I think I'm just chaos.
But you play to your strengths, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the,
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, well, I think you have to be chaotic just to get through in this current,
Oh, big
current
time,
era
for
as well.
sure, big time.
And maybe aside from the fruits, like you obviously work a lot with lactose. Are there other sort of unusual ingredients that you've worked with outside of all the fruits and stuff like that? Is there anything you sort of gone, maybe we can make a beer with this, and no one sort of tried that?
Yeah, we've been using coconut powder, like coconut cream powder, recently, and a few of our kind of more smoothier, creamier beers, which you would have seen come out since Gabs probably.
Yeah.
That's been a really annoying
Challenging.
challenging
Yeah,
product to play with, and so
Yeah.
when one of these beers does come up, the brewers are like, "Fuck, dude, another one."
In terms of challenging and
get
what
through
getting
it.
stuck in the
Lots of
in
powder,
the
right?
brewery, or
So getting it dissolved
Yeah.
properly without the clumps, and then like it's naturally thick,
Yeah.
and then getting that to meld with the beer to
Yeah.
not split.
yes, you've just got some lumps like when almond milk
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
work well in your coffee or something. But I can't drink that.
So we've played with that. It's like happening in the States quite a bit too,
Yeah.
and these kind of products we use come and go.
Yeah.
Right? So we use there was a point where we were trying to how much lactose can we fit in a beer, and it's
Yeah.
like, all right, we've reached that limit now. Let's pull back, and we know how to use it.
Yeah.
I think the same was with the fruit. I think the same with the acid culture we use. So
Yeah.
there have always been new ingredients that we're playing with on the side that don't make it into a beer or onto the side of a
Yeah.
can. And then there's some that make it through and we have a play with for a couple of months and then it kind of dies off. So we're always looking and exploring for like those innovative and different
Yeah.
products.
And have you had to like custom redesign the brewery or refit stuff along the way to be able to do some of this stuff?
Funny story. No. When we order new equipment, there is always something that goes into it about that customization process
Yeah.
because we know what works now or what could work in the future. So the centrifuge and how we operate that's where that clean fusion dry hopping process came from.
Yeah.
And then we got some new fermenters 18 months ago, and there's a few more designs on there that allow us to mix the tank
Yeah.
better and stuff. So yeah, as we grow into what we're making, which we know now,
Yeah.
future equipment will reflect that.
Yeah.
So
And how have you sort of got to that point as well? Because there's been so many times where I've tried a beer or when Jud's been getting the beers, and you're just like reading the label, going, "There's just no way I can see how that'll work." And B, that I'll enjoy it, and then you have it, and it's like it all really works well together. And like, how is that something that's come over time from experimenting, or do you think it's just something that you have within your brain or your innately that you kind of I know how these things will work together
Yeah.
or what volumes to use? Like,
I think we all love food.
Yeah.
So the three of us, as well as like the rest of the team. So like we're constantly talking about that. Where do we eat? What do we cook? What
Yeah.
do we make at home? So I think we've all got a palate for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these crazy concoctions, if you come into the One Drop brand now and you read a can, you're like, what the fuck is going on in this can, right? But if you rewind back to when we had
Yeah.
Alpha Kinney one on tap, we were like, there was like a blueberry sour or a passion fruit sour. And so we've had 6 years of building on the shoulders of working with other ingredients. And
Yeah.
so we know how those ingredients work in beer. So we can make like an 85% guesstimate of, all right, let's combine those and then we'll throw a wild card in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll put a small amount out in, and if it works, then
you can up it in future.
And then, so
ones.
if you
Okay.
come in and have one drop now,
Yeah.
you're asking questions like you just asked.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you know that all this is going to work? But it's we're standing on the shoulders of 6 years of R&D.
Yeah.
So
And there seems to be a few sort of, in jokes along the way as well, like the 420 grams of fruit. Are there any other things that you sort of keep sort of,
you got to keep an eye out for them, bro.
Easter eggs everywhere.
But I guess it is like that must be part of what keeps it like entertaining for you guys as well. It's obviously, the beers and I guess the feedback you're getting, but is that part of it as well? Like just keeping humor within the brand as well?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah definitely.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's playful. It's not, beer's not serious.
Yeah.
This isn't a serious thing.
Yeah.
So.
And what about was it something that started at Gab's the first time, like the slushy, and the ice cream beers and stuff like that? How did that all sort of come about?
COVID. I remember
losing your minds.
I found an ice cream machine. No one was like party shop, right? No one's using them because it's COVID. Like, no one's having a party. Well, they shouldn't be. And there were a few guys in Europe doing these ice cream beers. And so I just said, call this place up, and they're like, we charge you out $180 a day. And I was like, how about I give you $180 a fortnight? Because it's just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
So we got an ice cream machine, and I call these guys up, and I was like, can we get an ice cream machine and just fuck around? Like, we're not doing anything. Tanks are half full, blah, blah. And then we spent ages getting that right, what beers work in that and what we have to do to the beers. Yeah. And we got to a point where we didn't have to do much, or if anything, and we're able to kind of serve on the ice cream.
What is the process to actually get the beer working in the ice cream and stuff?
For our beers?
Yeah.
Pour it in.
Take it in.
Pour it in.
And what's the base? Just use the most just, I guess, simple flavour or whatever of ice cream, and just let the beer.
No.
We just pour.
You pour it in and that just turns freeze. Okay.
In this R&D in this process during COVID, we don't do these a lot.
Yeah, so there's no additional thing. It's like the beer, and I guess you have to pick the right beer to do it.
So we do it by design, right? Yeah. So we're not putting every beer through the ice cream machine.
The lager hasn't gone through.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Want a bit of bitter malty ice cream, anyone?
When we by design we go, all right, cool. We don't have, we're running out of the next beer to put in the ice cream machine, and so when we come up with another one, we're designing that in the back end to be poured straight in, which is part of the whole R&D COVID process.
Yeah. And does that sort of cause issues as well? Like, does the ice cream machine need taking apart regularly to,
we pack it away for the winter. It's a challenge to, not clog it up and overheat it with all the random stuff we put through it. But we pack it away over winter time and then bring it back for the summer.
Fair enough. And then talking of challenges and clogging things up, have there been any real major issues that you faced in the brewery when you have tried something, or put some ingredient through that just didn't want to be in beer, didn't want to be in a tank?
We burnt a bunch of white nectarine.
Okay.
When we decided to do one of our, because we've got 50 hectares downstairs, to do one of our large batches of a slushy beer, and that was so fucking gross. I couldn't turn that. None of us could turn that around. We dumped all that. That wasn't great. What else do we use? We had some Feijoa. It was quite sandy, so we had to kind of fuse that 4 times, which is fucked.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think back to maybe sort of 10, 12 years ago when people were starting to do a bit of lactose sours or sort of a bit of brand. People were freaking out, going, if you do this, it's going to destroy the whole brewery for anything else. And you guys, I guess, there hasn't really been anything that you haven't put through. So I mean, I guess it was just careful management or whatever.
And you use an ingredient and you realize that's not how you use that. Yeah. And you call around, or you do it beforehand and ask others. Again, the industry is on the shoulders of the generation before us, etc. So you can always call up the phone and go, have you guys used cocoa nibs and boil before here or whatever, right? And a lot of people are now asking us about that because we're noticing a lot more people making smoothie sours or these big pastry stouts and stuff. So we're fielding a lot of phone calls for that too. Hey, how do I use this ingredient?
Learn yourself.
No, imagine that.
Next year's.
So there's always challenges with those newer ingredients.
Yeah,
we've got a way of doing it here that works for us. So.
Yeah, and of all the beers that you have made over the time, is there one that's close to each of your hearts? Is it just your lager or your pale ale, or is it one of the I guess each you in turn one beer that I'm not saying it's the one you want to drink all the time, but the one that you just love every time it's around?
I think we're more style based,
which
is reflected on what we make.
We've always kind of picked 4 styles
Yeah.
that, like, Nick really loves the lagers, pilsners, and Clay is into the hoppy IPAs, and I've always been about fruited sours from the beginning. So between the 3 of us, we also like the pastry imperial stouts as well.
So you like double take, like the biggest of the fruited sours, or is that where you sit?
Just all of it.
Just all of
Yeah,
it.
I don't actually drink the IPAs and
Yeah.
lagers.
And what about your favourite IPA? Because what was one of the early Clean Fusion ones that went on to win the gold? I mean, I took them back over to the UK. You gave me a few when the first Clean Fusion came out, and there was a double IPA that was just so. Was it? No, not Twisted. What was it? There was one that was just.
Faded?
Yeah, it
Oh,
could have
yeah,
been. Yeah, it
Faded.
was just such a.
But we
That
used to
was
do
good.
that, and then we did one with Clean Fusion, right?
So, can't remember.
Yeah, I remember one of the
Yeah,
early ones
maybe,
was
yeah.
just so banging. Yeah.
Yeah. We try and do that process more often than not now, which is great. Sometimes we call out, we can, sometimes we don't. But
Yeah.
we've had some international breweries that really love using that and
Concept, yeah.
push it around. So it's cool. It seems to have some legs. So
Yeah. So despite the fact that you are the brewer behind all this like crazy Willy Wonka stuff as well, lager's your thing.
big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah.
It's so on our equipment. I mean, most equipment, I would say it's the hardest to make or hear anyway.
Yeah.
So we get a kick out of that. The challenge of making a really, really nice lager, but
And do you prefer the more traditional ones or this, the more contemporary, like West Coast sort of stuff? or
like
just-
Bohemian style.
Yeah.
So around Germany, Czech Republic.
Yeah, you
that
made
kind of Central European.
you made like was it an Adriatic or something lager last year or something that was just it was like I couldn't drink that any quicker if I tried. It was just like so well balanced and so delicious.
So yeah, we've got RO water, so we can play with the water profile, and that's what we play with. And now,
It's like, how can you make
How do you
lager
market?
fun?
yeah, how do you make lager fun and actually get people to buy
Yeah.
it?
So yeah, we played with water profiles from different parts of the world, and then themed these lagers and pilsners from a region in Italy or a place in Croatia. We've been to Greece.
Fiji.
We've been to
I think it was the Croatian one I was thinking of that was just
Yeah, but maybe Spain.
Spain.
So that's cool from a brewer's perspective. It's like brewers talk to or people in the industry geek out about this shouldn't work on a water profile, but it does.
Yeah.
So the Italian Pilsner we did. But the last 3 have been far more traditional. So we had the Chosen one, which was probably my favorite so far. And then Kingside, which is what we're drinking, which is our birthday Bohemian lager with Weimann, which was a dream collab to try and get, and it was incredible. But yeah, that's definitely where my passion lies in the lager, for sure.
Yeah.
There we go. Now, let's go. We'll take a quick break now and then come back around to chat about the background to the One Drop story and maybe where you're heading.
Cool.
Cheers.
Thank you.
It's time for Have You Done a Rallings? Proudly presented by the legends at Rallings Labels. For the very best digitally printed cans and cartons with no MOQ, visit rallingsprint.com.au and chat to Brad and Paul today.
Okay, it's time for another one of our Have You Done a Rallings celebrations of the country's good beer citizens. We've got a couple of crackers for you this month as well. First up, honourable mention comes from Craig Maiden, aka Beers Illustrated, based in Queensland. Will, who is he nominated?
Yeah, I mean, Craig is someone that will be known to a lot of people in the Queensland beer industry and further afield. And these 2 people that he's nominated, it will certainly be known, I reckon, to almost everyone and maybe beer lovers across the country too. He's nominated Josh and Matt from Hop On Brewery Tours. Anyone who's met those 2 know just how passionate they are about the local beer industry. Their tours are awesome. This is all me editorializing here, but Craig said that on top of everything they do to get feet in the door of tap rooms in southeast Queensland, Joss's work with the Queensland Royal Beer Awards as head steward has been tremendous.
Yeah, we did a feature on stewarding at Beer Awards, and Joss was our main star of that feature a couple of years back as well. And yeah, it's rare that you would go to any sort of major beer event, whether it's consumer facing or industry facing around Australia, and not see one or both of Joss and Matt there getting fully involved. They'd be as good supporters of beer in Australia as anyone you could find.
Yeah, definitely. They often, I saw they brought the team from Matic down to Bendigo on the Hop, where they even organised everything just so the busy brewery owners wouldn't have to, stress about holidays. They just turned up and were like people on their Hop On Brewery tours, were just sort of chauffeured around the beautiful beer venues and breweries.
People love to give.
Yes.
They love to give. So it's going to take quite something to top Joss and Matt, but the winner chosen this month for the Have You Done a Rallings was nominated by Ian Miller. So who's he put forward then, Will?
Yeah, Ian Miller, by the way, he's from the Australian Rod Builder Company. He makes some very good fishing rods. I gave him a Google last night. So if you want a fishing rod, maybe reach out to Ian as well. He nominated Damien Martin of Dangerous Ales. He said, you probably know Damo, but probably don't know how many good deeds he's done for so many people. This includes helping other local breweries with advice and hands-on help with issues and problems they have. He's invested in the local community and hospitality businesses. He's also happy to pass on his wealth of brewing knowledge to anyone else. And Ian says he's watched him help a homebrewer in the pub recently, and he gifted the guy with a bag of ingredients as well. The guy was a complete stranger and didn't even realize he was talking to the boss of the brewery. His chef training as well holds him in great stead when it comes to understanding flavors and tastes, and has helped many understand better with welcome advice, including Ian himself. So, yeah, you never hear it out of him, but Damo is a very modest person who does great work. And I think that's definitely true. He's a pretty chilled out guy, Damo, coming from a bodyboarding background.
Yeah. Yes, everything that he's been doing, like, I think we've talked about it before, whether on here or whether in articles. We like the uniqueness of the branding that they've done, the quality of the beers, like winning back Indies trophies in the same category with different beers. I love the fact that when I first met him, we sat down to have a glass of Crispy Boy, his like flagship lager, which I'd never had up until that point. And I was like, oh, it's like Knapstein, like this, one of those wonderful lost beers of Australia. It was this, lager that Lion used to make in the Clare Valley. And this beer, I was like, it must have Nelson Sauvin, and it did. And he goes, what's Knapstein? And I'm like, oh my God, you basically recreated one of these incredible beers that so many people miss having. You didn't even know it existed. He goes, I was just trying to make the lager that I want to drink. I was like, well, you've just made one of these, essentially a recreation of this phenomenal beer that, was knocked on the head by Lion a while back. But yeah, really, really lovely guy, surrounded by a bunch of good people. So a very worthy winner. So we'll pass the details on to the Legends at Rallings. We'll sort him out with a voucher to spend as he would like to on any of their labels, printing, stickers.
I wonder if he can get stickers for his surfboards or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But I think, two wonderful nominations there. Always looking for more. So if you'd like to put forward a good beer citizen, it doesn't have to be someone working in the industry. It could be someone just around the industry who's doing something great in the community. Then all you have to do is jump online to craftypint.com/rallings.
Cheers.
Back to the show.
Need something printed but it's only a short run? Talk to Rallings. Whether it's cans, cartons or coasters, Rallings has a solution for you. Visit rallingsprint.com.au today.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone.
To be back.
I think having started in the present, it'd be great to go back to, I guess, before one drop. What were you guys doing beforehand, and how did you sort of get into beer and then end up here?
We're going way back now to a whole nother life. I can't even remember it.
Yeah.
I was working in construction. Meg was...
I was working for a tech company.
Yeah. We had 3 young kids at the time.
Yeah.
And we decided that, we decided to quit our jobs at one point and just go all in on ourselves, do a bit of work.
Yeah.
I started a small sort of food trucking business.
Yeah.
And one of my first gigs was at Batch Brewing Co.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, I was like, fuck, this is pretty cool. Hung out for the day, did a pig on the spit. All the punters enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Came home to Meg that night and I was like, I reckon we should build a brewery in Botany.
So are you living here? Because you're from here, is that right?
Yeah, I'm from here.
Yeah.
We were living here at the time.
Yeah.
We had 3 young kids, big dog.
Like, what can we do to make our lives a bit harder?
And then he comes home with a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
But that one, I don't know, I liked it. I was like, you know what, you're right. Because there's, heaps of pubs and pokies and there was just no.
There's still tits and snits back then.
Yeah, there's still topless waitressing down the corner.
Wow.
Which
just in
here?
Just
wow.
here.
And it was not kind of family friendly or creative. Like being from Botany, I was just, I don't know, there was nothing that was being created here that people were like, oh, I'm from Botany. That's where such and such is from.
Yeah, and it's like its own little world, isn't it? You're sort of out on a sort of well, they pick on a
and-
spit. It's like Botany's out on a spit from the rest of Sydney kind of thing. Yeah.
And
It's a bit of a pig sometimes.
we just thought it would be a good idea that it would be good for the local area to start with, and then it would give us a creative outlet because we weren't really getting that in the work that we were doing at the time. So and we actually wanted to work together. So that was a project that we were quite
Well, that's good to
excited
hear.
to
My
do.
wife's like, I would never ever
Yeah.
work with you. It's tough enough living with you, so that's nice. That's
yeah,
good.
it was that was the start of it, and then we realized very quickly that neither of us had experience, and if we wanted to pay for this thing and get funding for it, we'd have to back it ourselves. So we sold our house pretty much to take it to the next level, and I think we were signing a 20-year lease and we didn't even have a brewer. And we were like, you know what? Before we just like go all in on the hardest project of our life, how about we take a bit of this cash and
work
go
out how to
on
make beer.
our dream holiday now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, let's go on our dream holiday now with our kids in case all this goes tits up. At least we had our dream holiday, you know. So we took the kids to Europe, to Croatia, where my family are from. And we spent 9 weeks there with no plan and just travelled around. And we ended up in Prague and Italy, Germany. And then our last stop was in Zagreb. And Clay showed me this Instagram profile of some brewery in the arse end of nowhere in Zagreb. It's like, that looks pretty cool. Let's just spend a Sunday there with friends. So we turned up. And as soon as the bar guys, that brewery, saw that Clay was wearing a greenstone, it's like, oh, you got to come back. Our head brewer's Kiwi like you. You got to meet him. And I was like, we're in Croatia and there's one other Kiwi in the country right now. And he's a brewer. Like, we've got to meet him. And Clay did go back the next day. I was in the apartment with the kids and he came back after meeting Nick and he said, oh, I've just met our head brewer. He doesn't know it yet. But he's our head brewer.
Laid the seed.
Wow.
Planted. And then it turned out to be true. So fast forward.
And how long had you been at Garden Brewery?
About 3 years. About 3 years, yeah.
And was that your first brewing gig, or had you been?
I'd been in London, so I was working under an American brewer making American beer in England.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. We're the first to get a can line, etc. But that was my first head brewer / consulting gig. So I helped build the brewery, then build it up, train the staff. So it's kind of like a cool project. And then after about 3 years, Clay came in and he's like, can I have a look around the brewery? I was like, yeah, I'll show you around. He's like, I'm starting a brewery in Sydney. I was like, yeah, like fucking everyone else.
He looked at me and he was like,
Everyone's starting a brewery, man. Don't worry. It's
here's a case of beer. I was like, "No."
It's the in thing right now.
And were you sending beer out? Because beer was coming from Garden to Australia. Was that
started as I was leaving?
Okay.
Yeah. So the export market started to pick up quite a bit. Yeah. And we had a pretty big R&D program there too. So a lot of sours and stouts and stuff. So we could play around, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
that
2018 you came, I think, September.
Yeah, so so we had already started like the bones construction. And then we're like, oh, we've got this empty space upstairs. We'll just turn it into an apartment and give you like a year just to get on your feet. And so this was his house.
Because Croatia pays very poorly. That's how I was going to arrive.
It's a beautiful country, though.
Sydney, I'll just jump straight into a place. No fucking way.
So that, it served its purpose for a year. It's pretty good.
And so how long were you sort of the three of you working on this project before you opened then? Because you opened Jan in 2019, which was nice being Botany's 2019 postcode, all very nice and neat. As that backstory is, the fact that you're from Croatia, visiting your home country and Kiwis meet up or whatever. But so how long were you over here, sort of the three you getting it all ready to go?
I signed
When was
in
that?
April 2018, and then worked from afar because Croatia was going to its big summer, so it was like peak production. So I kind of worked on the project from a distance, and you guys have already been 2 years in before
June 23rd, 2018. We got the keys to this place.
Keys,
fucking started coming out.
But prior to that, Clay and I were working on it since like start of 2017 or end of 2016, really.
We had a couple of warehouses fall through. Lost a lot of money.
Just the typical heartbreak with all these startups, the council pushing back. Like he was on the flight going, oh, okay, I'm just boarding my flight to move my whole life to this project. And
we didn't have council approval.
We actually got a no. Got a no.
Well, yeah, just come.
Do we tell him?
Like,
Just don't
oh,
say
just
anything.
don't say anything.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
And then with patience and time,
Yeah.
we just, really kind of proved our case.
Just
that
persevered.
persevered.
Just
Yeah.
went for it. It's like-
First in the area, first for anything
Yeah.
is going to always be difficult. So back then, there was no hint of anything.
I remember calling Richard Adamson
Yeah.
and asking him for a bit of advice. And he goes, "Oh, you the first in your council?" I said, "Yeah." He goes,
Good
Yeah.
luck.
"Good luck."
Good luck.
I was like,
Or he would have known.
"Is that it?" He
Yeah.
goes, "Yeah, that's all I can give you. Sorry."
Yeah,
He's like,
because he had his
"Fuck,
false starts with Young Henrys, didn't he? Trying to get that over the line for a
Yeah.
few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And One Drop the Names. It's a music reference. So who's that come from?
So it's the reggae beat, basically the one drop beat. Big reggae fan.
Yeah.
So that's all about community, creates a ripple effect when you have one drop, and hopefully brings everyone in.
Yeah.
So,
And that's something I'm sort of want to ask about your sort of audience. I guess for a lot of the more out there beers, you're selling them all over the country and overseas, and I'd imagine the sort of thing that most people just buy one or two. But I remember when the first time I came in here, probably in 2019, you talked about the importance of community, and is that something that you've really sort of fostered here within Botany, and is that more around the lagers and your XPA and IPAs and stuff like that, or what's your audience ended up being over the years?
Yeah.
Bit of
Everything, yeah.
everything.
I mean, it's grown. Yes, we have our lovely local community that, week in, week out, they're here, they come with the kids. Like, we've seen babies born, wedding of the heads, then kids come back, they're already in school. Like, we've seen,
Yeah, it's
we've seen it all, you
Yeah.
know. And then as we've grown our styles and really like persevered with new styles, we've got a really great following of sour beer drinkers, lager lovers, big stouts. Like, people kind of know these four core styles that we do, and then around each style we've got these real lovers of that style.
I mean, we get people who just fly in for the day,
Yeah.
get pissed, and then cruise home.
Like, literally, I've had people turn up like flights straight off a flight from China, talking about how they've been wanting to come.
Wow.
And it's just so humbling. It's so cool.
I think after COVID, where a lot of people went digital, we have, as Meg said, we have our community here and even like wider Sydney area, but I think a lot of our community's online too, especially what we make, and we engage with them, and I think we do a good job of that. And like Meg said, like, we've got this online community that people know about us. We're slowly bringing exporting products out to those markets. We have people coming from China or Taiwan or being straight here, grab a case or two, and then
So they've tried your beers, from a craft beer at retail or whatever, wherever they are in the world, and it's like, this is just it's worth flying halfway across the planet just to go and see them at the source.
We've found that our beer, like, people will take it to parties. Someone won't just take a can for themselves. They'll share it with friends and they'll have something to talk about. It's like a real cool conversation starter. It's like, oh, check this beer out, look at the artwork, or read the back. Can you believe what's in it? And from that, it really is old school word of mouth too. People will really, it's something to talk about. And we've found that it spreads within a community pretty quickly if there's something interesting to talk about and they're really wowed by it. So it'll just flow on from there.
Yeah, and people, I know you're obviously a little bit sort of out on your own in terms of the suburb. Like, do people regularly travelling across from other parts of Sydney to come out here just to sort of make a day of it over here? Or I guess now you've got a bit of a circuit, I guess, with the other breweries that have opened.
You look around, there's zero walking traffic around here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely a destination. If you come into this part of Botany, you definitely come.
we're flying in or out.
Flying in and
flying.
out.
Flying around because it's so close.
Yeah. In terms of when you launched, like, I remember you had, like, lager, XPA, pale ale, pretty much all of them, like, picked up gold medals at Avers straight away. And it's, I remember noticing that and going, oh, these guys know what they're doing making beer.
You've got a good memory.
Great memory.
But like, did you sort of think, well, that's the way we're going to go, we're going to be a community venue? Or did you think you'd ever be like you are now, like, 6 years on, where you sit?
I don't think we ever put a box on it.
No.
Yeah.
But there were
Lid on it.
looking back now though, there were hints as to where we'd end up. Like, I remember when we first started, this core range, there had to be a sour on there because I love sour. I realized it wasn't that I didn't like beer, I just didn't know the style I liked. And sours weren't a thing until I tried one. And then I was like, this is my style. And I went to every brewery around to try and get the best. And I always felt like, you're telling me there's hibiscus in here, amazing. And then I kind of felt like I can't taste it.
Yeah.
And then it was like always around the 3%. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm drinking like a couple, but now I just feel like full and I'm not getting anything out of that.
Not getting that hit.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about doing a sour, and Nick's like, yeah, I'm working on this passion fruit sour, and I'm like, yeah, make sure it tastes like passion fruit. It's like, challenge accepted, pouring all this passion fruit in there. And then the ABV kind of jumped up to 6.2. And he was like, well, that's a bit high. I'm like, oh,
You're like, no.
Let's go for it.
Roll with it.
And then I loved it. It tasted like passion fruit. It had a good ABV on it. And that was it.
Big vibrant colour.
So you're really the one that's responsible for all these insane high
maybe.
ABV fruited beers
Maybe.
from one drop.
Maybe. I just always, like, people, some of our beers are very polarizing.
Yeah.
People will pick up a beer, they'll pour it, they'll drink it. Some people hate it.
Yeah.
But no one has ever said it doesn't do what it says it'll do on the can.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for us. We're never going to put something on the can and say it's going to taste like this, this, and this, and this. But then you try it and it doesn't deliver at all.
Yeah.
It always delivers, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
That's going to be to debate, right? Great that you've tried something new. But no one's ever said, it doesn't taste like that. They always say, okay, look, I don't like it, but it definitely does what it says on the can.
Yeah.
So that's important.
And is that sort of part of your thing, going, okay, if this is what I've got to do, I've got to make sure I push everything to the nth degree?
No, that's just a Nick thing.
No, I agree with Meg. Like when I arrived and you guys showed me around Sydney, like this is the beer scene in Australia, because it's been like 5 years since I'd left, and I was in Perth, so it was like we were still behind there anyway in the beer scene.
Apart from sort of Feral and two others, there wasn't much going. Yeah.
And I distinctly remember having, we had a raspberry sour at one of the breweries, and then a blueberry. There must have been a blueberry one another, and it was like this color, slightly hazy. This color, slightly hazy, and then like it had a tinge of red or tinge of purple. And I'm drinking it, I'm like, yeah, okay, like because I'm in the industry, I can taste the background note. But if I was a punter walking in to try a new brewery, and you told me this had blueberry in it, I'd be like, well, it looks like you put a little bit of cordial in, but maybe not. And so I agree with Meg. It's like when we're designing a beer, and the boys are executing it downstairs, it needs to like be exactly what we've tried.
None
to
of
make
this
it be.
Franklin spring water essence of fruit.
So if it's a smoothie blueberry sour, it's thick and it's got a bit of sweetness to it and a bit of vanilla, and then like heaps of blueberry on the nose. When you look at it, it's blueberry. When you smell it's blueberry. When you taste it's blueberry. It's like, back to the last thing we talked about. So an experience in a can is all we talk about in the office. Like, we don't want you filling your fridge with this as a fridge filler. We want you to go and find something else. And then take a can or two to a party and just be like, gee, this crazy ass thing I've got. And that, I think, we're the products we make are there for everybody. We're not pigeonholing to beer geeks or anything. It's like anyone can share. Anyone who drinks booze or drinks fruit can have an awesome, fun, experiential time. Or experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess one thing, listening to you, emphasizing how hard you go with ingredients, stuff like that, how do you actually make any money off these beers? Because it sounds like it's just like there's no holds barred on what the lengths you'll go to source ingredients, the amount of each ingredient you put in there. And like, I know the Tallboy cans are like, you pay a premium for them, but it's not crazy. It's not like people were paying for like barrel aged, bold stuff a few years ago. So
I think it comes down to a really good team,
really
good teamwork, and good process. You can save a lot of cash in like fat, I guess.
We've learned that.
We learned how over the years where there's a cost to the chaos and there's a cost to not having really strong boundaries. So I think we're really refined.
That's when you added the containment to the chaos.
We started to really give it some.
Just putting a lot of process in place and making sure that
systems
followed it, and everyone.
Sounds like such a boring thing, doesn't it? But a few years ago, I was like, I need to put some process. And I was like,
there's a method.
Right. It really is a good idea.
My mental health. Wow.
Exactly.
And I guess going back to Botany then, so when you opened, you're just saying it was like Tits and Schnitz, and now you've got like Slow Lane not far from here and Bierfontein. Has it changed? Have you sort of helped change the wider suburb as well? Or okay, so it's sort of changed a bit of the culture here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a
I've seen a lot more younger families and young people move into the area.
Yeah.
People who enjoy going out, spending a little bit of money on a nice beer and hanging out in a different environment that it's not your normal sort of working pub.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get people come down to One Drop to get absolutely shit-faced on a Friday.
He's the fourth team members making an appearance.
He's been hiding for a very long time, so it's nice to have him out.
He's only just started to make friends.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
He attacked one of our bar staff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
And then-
Well, no, it wasn't that he attacked him. He just felt a little bit
Hello?
threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says if people come down on a Friday sort of for the experience of trying new
Yeah,
stuff
they
or for
might
the experience
just-
of being around like the good food trucks or the music or whatever you
Yeah,
might
a bit
have
of
on.
that.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
always
we
different.
run meat raffles for charities and stuff on a Friday afternoon.
Keep
We
it
do a
really
happy
local.
hour. We keep it real local.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get a few people down, just come down, hang out,
Yeah.
socialise with their buddies. It's not bad.
Which is what you wanted from the start, I guess. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all the other stuff's come along the way
Yeah.
while it's
Yeah.
been happening.
Yeah.
The story I love telling is when everyone did everything at the start. So we all worked the bar and everyone came and checked us out at the start. We had the mechanics. Remember this day, like the mechanics came down. So mechanics, you got the old guys who run it. You got the middle tier, and then you got the apprentices, right?
Yeah.
So they've come down for you. It's like, I've what does everyone want? All right, 7 Botany Bay lagers, and what do you want, mate? And it's like the young guy, and he's like, oh no, I'll try one of those blueberry sours, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Pay for it. 7 lagers come on the bar, and then like this bright purple pint with a big pink head, and like. I don't know what you can say on this podcast, but this is what they say, quote unquote, like,
Yeah.
you puffed her, like,
Yeah.
you're drinking this blueberry thing, whatever. And then they're off drinking and hanging out. I'm like, all right, what's this new craft beer thing about? 4 or 5 rounds later, old boy's back at the bar. He's like, give me 7 blueberry sours and 1 lager. And you're like, these guys have been drinking whatever for the last 40 years, and they've come down here and they've had this. They didn't even know it was beer, and they had this experience with a product to the point where they're ordering it for everyone.
Yeah.
And that was kind of seeing that and what that can do.
You sometimes hear about
Broaden
those
the
sort of conversions
scope.
over a few weeks or months, but to have it happen in the space of 5 beers.
With the sours,
So-
it's instant. We had a whole group of Harley bike riders,
Yeah.
bikies,
Motorcyclists.
motorcyclists. They all turned up on a Sunday for lunch. There was about 30 of them, and they were ordering. It was like that orange Oreo smoothie sour that we
Was
had
it
done.
butterscotch?
Butterscotch.
One. Bottle of.
Bottle
Bottle
of.
of.
And there was like one guy ordered it. Everyone mocked him. By the end, everyone was drinking it. Like they were getting rounds, like 30, we were pouring trays of
Big
it.
burly boys.
And it was just funny.
And they're not going to take that home and fill their fridge with it.
No,
They're
no,
gonna
no.
Have a really awesome time
Yeah.
here with that.
And there'll be a time some down the line where they go, remember that thing we had? I wish I go back there one day and just see what else they're doing,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Every two
Well, they'll see stuff and they'll go to a bottle shop and they might see someone else's crazy sour beer and they'll try that because they've had an experience with, what I mean? It's not just VB or your cotton draft or.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely isn't either of those.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And every 2 weeks, we've just got an endless tap list. It's always different. You will never come to One Drop after a month or two and it'll be the same. There'll be a different food truck. It'll be different beers on tap. It'll just be a whole new
Imagine
experience.
being like that everywhere these days, though. Like all the breweries and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, not everywhere. I reckon a lot of people have reined things in a bit more recently, just, with the way things are. Whereas you guys are going, no, foot to the floor. Come on, how far can we take this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've reined things in other ways behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We have absolutely reined things in behind the scenes. But what we've not reined in on and what we can't rein in on because it's just not part of the ethos is being really creative, trying new things, seeing what's out there and just making things better all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Anyway, so past, present, future. So if there was like one thing you wish you'd known back in whether it was 17, 18, 19, whatever, starting out, what would that be?
No, we've learned pretty well from all the mistakes. So everything's been quite
I mean, if we were to build another brewery
it'd be
tomorrow,
different.
it'd be fucking way different to this.
Okay. In what sense? Like,
Just
Just all the finer details like the plumbing, the flooring.
just things that you
all
wish
that
you
sort of
knew, but then you kind of work around it.
surely
anyway.
that was Nick's job to turn up and tell you all that
Well,
stuff.
Kind of.
it was the learning.
Ish. I didn't think we'd get this big, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah. So
we built as much contingency
But
as we
in
could.
saying that too, like, what was his name who came yesterday?
Justin.
Justin came yesterday, and he sort of alluded to, like, it's really cool how you can walk through the whole place in the brewery, and we get a
We
lot of people who
always-
comment on that. You know, they
Yeah.
because they'll come on a Thursday and Friday or Wednesday afternoon, and you got the brewers who are running around in and out, and like you can see them, you can see what's happening and what's going on.
We
Nothing's sort of hidden.
Yeah, we always did have a vision of the place to be like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Nothing to hide. Totally.
yeah, everything was kind of out.
Yeah, well, with everything having gone so wonderfully well over the 6 years and counting, if
Oh,
you had, apart from COVID and all the other challenges, if you had one piece of advice for someone getting into brewing now, which I guess is a weird question to ask when the wider market, so good.
Make sure you got heaps
I was gonna,
Okay.
I was gonna
Deep
say,
pockets.
and then
Yeah, deep pockets. But
and a lot of creativity
No, more
and a good work ethic.
more
There's a lot of
authenticity.
things.
I said one.
I
A
would
list
say,
of 100.
I would say, well, money is the obvious one, but I would say authenticity.
Mhm.
You have to do something that is aligned to you. You
Yeah.
can't really go, oh, that's what that person's doing. I'll just do the same.
Yeah.
Because it will never work.
That's definitely something that's served us over the years is not looking outside to what everyone else is doing, but just to focus on what we want to do
Yeah.
and what we want to achieve.
And what works
And
for
from
us.
the beginning, it was quality. Like quality was number one.
Yeah.
So we
This
want to
is
use
what we-
the best ingredients. We want to put out the best beer we possibly can.
want it to look good, want it to taste good,
Yeah.
want it to sound good when you read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. We sat down with your mates at Banks last week, and that was
Yeah.
kind of their ethos. It was just like that was it. It's like always quality and always be better, always trying to improve over time.
Yeah.
Had a good little story about you as well that we might use as the reel to launch their podcast. But anyway, wait see when we put it out there. If not, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, sweet.
Um,
All right.
And then I guess your hope for beer in the future, whether that's for you guys or whether it's for Sydney, whether it's for Australia, is like the one thing you'd love to see, for the beer world.
Well, we saw when we started that people who live around our immediate where we are actually really proud that we're here now. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm from Botany. And people are like, oh, like near One Drop. They're like, yeah, One Drop's from Botany. I live near there. And they're really quite proud of that. It'd be so cool for Australians to do that.
Mhm.
Like, if they're out of Australia, they're like, oh, I'm from Australia. I like craft beer. You like craft beer. Oh, you've got One Drop locally, but also here in Australia as well. That was so cool.
Because Australians generally don't like to big up themselves, which is kind of can be good in some ways, but there's also that sort of tall poppy syndrome that means that it's almost like you have to be successful overseas as an Australian to be respected locally or whatever. So yeah. Have you found that?
I don't really get that. Well, I don't get it. What do you mean?
Oh no, as in like it seems to me that Australians like to cut anyone down that's having success, and like they'll only sort of get respected if they actually become successful overseas, and then it's like, oh, maybe they're actually quite good.
Oh,
You know what I mean? There's the tall poppy thing where it's like, oh no,
there's a bit
Well,
of that,
actually, we
yeah.
got a lot of that when we started.
Big time.
A lot.
Okay.
We got a lot of like hate online. It was really
Okay.
shit, actually.
is it a bit centered on what?
On like when we started doing what we were doing, everything we were doing was
Everything we
just-
tried to do.
people were like under stress in COVID, and
Yeah,
a lot of people in the beer scene at that time, they vented that stress by just trolling
Mhm.
anything they could online, and they forgot that there are real people behind real companies that were also trying really, really hard.
yeah,
And
just to
That's
survive.
across the board, not just us.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
That's
really
yeah.
dark time in craft beer, but I feel like the scene's changed now.
Mm.
There's not like this kind of type of person that owns
Mhm.
beer. It's like now it's like for everyone.
everyone.
It definitely feels like it's opened up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time we were not fitting the mold. And
Yeah.
a lot of like online hate kind of came our
Wow.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello?
there you go.
I mean, we looked at some stats. We looked at some stats online, and the majority of our followers are women between ages of 26 and 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got more
There's a
fem-
big chunk. We've got a more female audience than what we have male now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know from Crafty and from like running Good Beer Week for a number of years, like it generally skews like 70-30 or more
Yeah.
towards men. So that's
So it's
really
pretty
interesting
cool to see
hear,
how
yeah.
it's changing. It's
Yeah.
evolving.
Yeah.
We're seeing weird shit in the top 10 at
Yeah,
the cabs.
long may it continue.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
hopefully it just keeps growing in the right
Yeah.
direction.
yeah, for sure.
My mentor said that beer is now pale, male, and stale,
hmm
which I couldn't agree with more.
hmm
So we go in the opposite direction of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
And I feel like the industry is changing in that.
yeah,
We're already doing that, and I feel like the industry is starting to move away from that mold, which seemed to have worked the last 10 years,
yeah,
and being opening spaces that are more inclusive, creating products that are more inclusive, whether it be
Yeah.
no outs or gluten free or products that aim for the fringes of what craft beer drinkers drink, or even not craft beer drinkers at all. Maybe doing RTDs, seltzers, protein water, whatever. But I think that is the future in general for beer.
Yeah.
I would hope so, because I feel like we dug ourselves into a hole. Not one drop, but the industry in the last 10 years. And
Oh, and I think that's one of the things that actually come out from doing this weekly podcast for the last few months is you talk to all these people, and the industry is like all the people we're talking to have so much more many more layers, and there's so much more nuance, and so many more interesting stories and characters and ethos and beliefs that people have, that it's way outside of that. And I think the problem is that maybe the industry wasn't necessarily pale, male, and stale, but it was making itself easy to be categorized that way. You know what I mean? And I think that was how it appeared on the outside to blokey or whatever it was. So certainly not something you'd insinuate about one drop. No, well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time and welcome me into
you.
your old home and now the gin bar. That was great.
awesome.
Oh, thank you very
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, James.
Cheers.
Are you a supplier to the craft beer industry? Are you looking for more customers? Chat to the team at the Crafty Pint today. Across our website, email newsletters, and weekly podcast, we reach more industry decision makers than any other media platform. Whatever your objectives, we can help you create engaging advertising campaigns, podcast segments, or ad reads that cut through. Chat to Craig, that's me, today. Hit me up at craig@craftypint.com.
The Crafty Pint podcast is produced and edited by Matt Hoffman. You can get all your beer-related news and reviews on the Crafty Pint website, craftypint.com, and can stay up to date on future podcast episodes via our socials.
We wouldn't be able to produce the podcast or the website, events or festivals we run without the support of the beer industry, whether that's suppliers, bars, breweries or bottle shops. If you'd like to support the show or partner with the Crafty Pint in other ways, please reach out to Craig via the details in the show notes.
And if you're a beer lover who'd like to support what we do, you can join our exclusive club for beer lovers, the Crafty Cabal. Visit craftykabal.com for more.
And until next time, drink good beer.